So before we get into this conversation about networking and who we surround ourselves with, since this is your first time on the podcast, Nas, I would like for you to give an introduction to the audience so they can get to know who you are, what it is you're doing, and then we'll dive into the conversation. And I'll share with them why I asked you, because I thought you asked me that before we started recording. It was a really good question. So kind of why I asked you and what's the point of this conversation. But introduce Nisiar Smith to everybody.
Yeah, so Nisiar Smith, born and raised in Philadelphia. I'm a Philly guy. I don't like the Eagles or the Sixers, and I don't care who has an opinion about that. But no, man, I'm a hardworking guy from the inner cities of Philadelphia who, turned a lot of his earlier traumas into triumphs, and I'm somebody who has a passion for learning and growing in life, and I'm always looking to do that, whether that's connecting with like-minded individuals or going to spaces and places that sort of represent that for me. So I'm a Penn State guy. Is where I went to college. I've been in financial services. Next year will make year 11, so well over a decade now, and I was just sitting reflecting on that earlier this week about like my journey up until this point, and how I got here was such a nonlinear path. And I'm excited to talk more about what that means as it pertains to relationships as well. So yeah, that's a little bit about who I am, and I'm an avid basketball fan. Love football as well. So yeah,
we got to do some PR training for you, man. What's Courtside Wealth Partners? What is this thing that you started? What's this big thing that you're changing financial services? Like, you left, it's not the most important part. Like, the individual is very, very important. You, the individual, are why I love you so much. But you talk your shit. You like to talk your shit in the text threads. Tell everybody about Courtside real quick too, because I'm very proud of what you're doing at Courtside. So tell people about that.
I appreciate that. Yeah. So about a year ago, let me take it back. Let me take a step back. 5 years ago, I made the decision that I was going to leave corporate America. It just didn't represent who I was any longer, and so I knew that I wanted to be in the advisory business as an independent advisor. But I never knew that you could be an independent advisor. I thought you had to have this massive book of business in order to do it. Until I stumbled upon XY's podcast and heard a guy named Edmund Miles Mattingly talk about his route to independency, and that sparked the beginning of it's over. Like, I figured out how and what this is going to look like. My fiance, actually, we were in bed the other day, and she was like, "I'm just really proud of you, because like you set a goal. Whenever you set goals for yourself, you almost put on blinders to everything else in the world, whether that's good or bad, right? You just get very focused and narrow in on like the thing." And so 5 years ago, when I figured out that I wanted to go independent, I didn't know who I wanted to serve at that point. I'm like, all right, well, what is this going to look like? So I started meeting a lot of individuals such as yourself who have really paved the way for me getting to this point. And so, a year ago, I founded Courtside Wealth Partners, which is a full service financial, and I can officially say that now, right? Full service financial planning firm. Focused specifically on athletes, entertainers, and coaches and entrepreneurs. And so, just yesterday we announced that we formed an affiliated arm, Courtside CPA and Associates, which is all tax strategy for that demographic of clients that I just mentioned. I'm proud of it. I'm proud of the brand. Number one, I didn't know I was going to be serving athletes. I think that I owe a lot of credit to you and Sam for that. And I said that to Sam last week, and I'm like, I got a prospective client that reached out, and the family was like, we want you to be our advisor. We know you've been in the financial services space for a little minute, and we can't trust anyone else. And at first I was going to refer that client over to someone else, and you guys kind of gave me the push I needed in order to believe that, oh shit, I can do that. Like, I know this space all too well. I'm a former athlete myself, and I'm like, hold on, I'm thinking about this the wrong way. And so I was, I had to figure out, a lot more of like the more intricacy parts of like what it looks like to serve an athlete. But then that sort of paralleled into well, what do I want my name to be? Like, I don't want to focus so far in on a specific, niche of an athlete, right? Because I can say that I only serve basketball players or only serve football players. But no, I wanted to kind of broaden the horizon. And so that's where Courtside Wealth Partners originated. I remember shooting you guys the name in the chat, like, hey, I think I came up with Courtside Wealth Partners. And this is what I wanted to go all in on. And, I'm nerded out over the brand. I think I told you guys I ordered a license plate to put on the back of my vehicle that says Courtside in 7 letters. And so I'm all in on this. And I'm excited to serve athletes in a different way than how it's always been traditionally, which is very investment focused. I think today's athletes, as we see people like Steph Curry go independent, you see some of these other, you see a lot of the college athletes in the NIL space, they are carving out their own their own path, and that looks very different than how how athletes were managed 30 years ago. So I'm excited to be pioneering what this new landscape of serving athletes look like. So appreciate you for letting me kind of pop my shit, as you say.
Of course. Although I don't know if the Courtside license plate was a good idea, because now people know who to roll up on.
Well, I don't have the money. My clients do.
But so you alluded to Emlyn. Shout out to Emlyn.
Shout out to Emlyn, man. Shout out to Emlyn.
And then reaching out to people like myself. So that's why I thought that this you being a part of this recurring cast of people coming on and us having conversations and having conversations that move people closer towards their authentic life. There's a lot that goes towards navigating your way, evolving or finding yourself, and the people you surround yourself with, your network, I think is undervalued and also underestimated as far as how important it is. And what I've witnessed you doing from getting to know people, like to get into the profession, and then the networking that you have within the sporting industry already, like the names you drop in our chat are like mind blowing. And so that's why I want to have the conversation, because you understand the value of relationships. You understand the value of being genuine in the relationship so that it is a true relationship, not one where we're just like using people to get access to other things. Like in financial services, and this is not a podcast for advisors, but we're early on in our careers taught, find an accountant, find an attorney, and COIs, build your COIs. And while that's good for business and that makes total sense, like I think building genuine relationships where there is no expectation of the other person, other than in our instance, like take good care of my clients, is the best way to form relationships. So I think you're very good at it. I think we have a good conversation with it. And I think we should kick off with like the story of how we met and why you reached out to me, which had nothing to do with myself. You were using me. I just talked about how you know how to have genuine relationships, and I was being used to get to somebody else. So please share that story.
So when I and thank you for allowing, because you've said like, all right, Nas, I don't, in the joking way, obviously, you keep joking about how you and I become really close, and so the story is I meet Emlyn. I heard him on XY. I go to LinkedIn. I message him. I say, Emlyn, I'm looking to break into the independent space of financial advising. Can you help me? He was like, absolutely. Let's schedule a call. I get on with him. He then introduces me to Samuel Dean, Tyrone Ross, and Desarte Yarnway. And I reach out to, he sends an email. I reach out to them all. Desarte ghosts me. I can say this because I've shared this with all of them. Desarte ghosts me. Tyrone ghosts me, and this is at the time, again, people have a lot of things going on in life, so I don't discredit them for that. And I get on a call with Samuel Dean, who had just had his son at the time, and he gave me some of his time, and I remember thinking to myself, okay, after that call with Emlyn and Sam, like I want to meet more people in this space, because part of my journey to this point, experiential learning was going to be a big breaking point for me, right? I'm a visual guy. I need to see it, touch it, and just interact with the ecosystem as it exists. And so I remember going to, I was like, I really want to talk to Tyrone. And I remember seeing that, this is during you guys' time at OnRamp. I remember seeing that you were the chief of staff for him. And I'm like, here's this white guy, right, that I'll connect with him. I'm not really looking to be friends with this guy. I just need to get to Tyrone. So I thought by building relationship capital with yourself, that in turn would allow me to get closer to Tyrone. Well, in reaching out to you and shooting my shot, or as you say, used to say, shoot your shot on Thursdays or whatever. I don't think it was a Thursday, but I shot my shot at you in DM, and I said, hey, look, would love for you to be a part of this programming that I have going on here in Philly called Philly Financial Literacy Week, and we're going to be talking about NFTs. Is when that was a really hot topic to discuss, and you and I hit it off on a call. And I'm like, whoa, this dude is actually, this is the opposite of what I actually thought from going into the meeting. We hit it off. You participated in Philly Financial Literacy Week. We start setting up, a cadence, a monthly cadence of calls. And we got closer, and you started pouring into me. And mind you, my original goal was to get to Tyrone, but I think what God was actually doing in me was he was saying, no, the person that you're in search of is in front of you, not the person that you thought you were going to actually go after. So I met you, and I jokingly say that was the best. I met who I needed to meet, because from there I got the opportunity to, again, learn about the space, think about how I wanted to run my firm. You immediately opened up your phone book, right, from a visual perspective, and introduced me to everyone that you thought could be valuable for me. And I think there's a gift in that, because all of us have access to the people and the things that we desire and need for our lives. But I think if you're intentional about how you cultivate those relationships, you can get a lot further in life. And so you started introducing me to a lot of folks, and I started not just saying, hey, thanks, Justin introduced me to you. It's great to be connected. And that was it. It was like, no, I've always been this guy, I'm going to go the extra mile to build a relationship with the person. So you started introducing me to, the likes of, it's okay to name drop, right?
Yeah, you can name drop.
Yeah, so you introduced me to folks like Caleb Silver. You reintroduced me to Samuel Dean, because we had not spoken in a while. I got to actually meet Tyrone, and I think you're a lot cooler than Tyrone.
That stays in for sure. That might even be a clip.
And then you introduced me to Josh Brown. You introduced me to Jason. You just started introducing me to your network of people, and I'm like, okay, he's not a gatekeeper. I like that, right? You're not withholding information from me that you think could suit me well in the future. And so I just remember thinking to myself, all right, Nas, I left this out. You invited me to Future Proof. You got my ticket comped, or you paid for it. I can't remember. And I ended up going. I got out to Future Proof. We had never met in person before, and we were at the hip the entire conference the first year. Again, making introductions, and then letting what that did for me from a mental perspective is I got to see that, holy smokes, not only is this possible to be an independent advisor. The network of who and what I need is all right here. I don't need to look anywhere else. So from that point on, I was like, oh, it's over. Once I found that out, I wrote it down, and there was nothing that was going to stop me from going down this path. And so, to really bring this home, the relationship that I needed was in front of me, because a lot of people are, and this helps me when I'm thinking about nonlinear relationships. A lot of people that we're looking to connect with are not actually the people that we need to be connected with. It's actually the folks, and I think I just said this, it's actually the people that's right in front of you. And I think that, God used you to be in front of me for a reason. He's like, no, that's the guy you need to be connected with, right? It's not that Tyrone isn't a great person, but this is who you're going to need at this particular part of your life to help you get where you're going to need to be. And it evolved into a brotherhood. Now we're taking annual trips to Sedona, Arizona, and you walking me into your home, and I got to meet your family, and I'm on the Castelli wall in the house, right? No one else has that. No one else can say that. No one else can say that, right? So like these are like very monumental, for me, important pieces that let me know that it's more than just the surface level of like being friends. It's like, no, this is a brother. This is someone that I care about, and that I'm willing to help out however I can. So that's how we got to this point, and that has like drifted into like me becoming close with your son and being able to utilize my resources and my network to do whatever it is that's necessary to help him along along his journey. So it's it's a testament. It's a testament.
I just like to give you a hard time about you wanting to get to Tyrone and using me. I think it's a fun story. But I think the cool thing about it is, like, Tyrone's been able to help you in other ways, and it was not so much that like he didn't want to help. It's that I was in the right space at the right time in my life to be able to help you at that time. And I do think that sometimes we are guided to something that we think it's one thing and it's another. So I think it was less that I was put in front of you. It was more of Tyrone was put in front of you to get you to me. And it's kind of cool when you look back to see how life guides you in ways that you don't realize in the moment. Like I enjoy doing those things. But what I want to have you kind of talk a little bit about is like, how do you go about building these relationships in a way that people want to pour back into you? So for me, like the first time we talked, like I was blown away at your maturity at a younger age. Like I'm 10 years older than you, 12 years older than you, 13 years older than you, 13. Okay. So when we first connected and you were telling me about Philly Financial Literacy Week, I'm like, man, this kid is, and I'm not kidding in a derogatory way, but this young man is like doing major things. He's got a week dedicated to financial literacy signed off on by the government of Philadelphia. Like Philly Financial Literacy Week is a big thing that he's done, and it was a really cool thing to see. And just it was immediately clear to me that you were driven, you had a good heart, and that like you had a lot of promise, and that I just viewed it as like you're in my life for a reason, and I felt like it was I'm supposed to help you and pour into you at whatever level you needed. But it was clear to me, I think it's a gift of mine. Like I can see potential in people, and I have a great track record of finding the diamonds in the rough. And if I can be a part of helping polish that diamond, then so be it. Or other times, if it's just to make introductions. So,
if we were all IPOs, you'd be a billionaire.
Oh yeah, I would. I totally would. But it's fun, and the cool thing is, it's like you said, it's grown to be mutual. Like above and beyond what you've done for Roman, just like the friendship and brotherhood and the conversations and all that's pretty awesome. And not every relationship, when you build out your network, ends up being that way. Like we can only have a handful, but I think it's very, very important to understand that, you hear the saying of the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, but like the people you surround yourself with is really important. And I would encourage people, don't be afraid to reach out. And I also would encourage people, and I remind you this sometimes, don't be too busy to take the call.
Yes.
Because
yes, you do.
Because I remember, and I'm still on the other side of where I reach out to people, like we're always looking up. So like when I'm reaching out to somebody I'm looking up at, like how do I provide value? Like how do I make it worth their time? Because them just meeting with me is giving me value. But what I quickly learned is that there are people who are looking up at me. There are people who are looking up at you. Whoever's watching and listening, there are people looking up at you. And you think that you're too busy to give to somebody else who's reaching out to you. But I promise you, when you take the time to meet with that individual, you will get something out of it as well. Nothing that you could ever imagine. So it almost always is. I don't think I've ever taken a call from someone who's reached out to me to pick my brain that when I got done, I felt like I got taken advantage of, that I got nothing out of the call. So it is good to give back and sometimes take those calls. I know people don't want to do pick your brain sessions and all those types of things, but I think there's benefit to you in spending that time. And I don't know if it's an energetic exchange of like, okay, since I gave time to Nas, then somebody I'm looking up to gave time to me. And I don't like to look at it as I'm going to do this to get that, but I think that energetically what you give comes back. So while you're making time for others, that allows somebody to take time to help you out, because we're all going to need help from somebody above. With that little tangent done, how have you? What is it that you've done that has allowed you to build trust, build these strong relationships where people are wanting to help you out right away? Like, I know there's an attorney that's trying her damnedest to give you as much business as possible after only meeting you a couple times. So what is it that you're doing? How is it that you're approaching meeting these people and handling the initial connections to where they quickly like you and want to help you?
So one of the things that I've learned, both in wealth management and just like navigating life in general, is that relationships are a form of capital, right? And so, honestly, they're it's way more valuable than money, right? Everyone has heard the saying, your network is your net worth, right? And so most people think of relationships in a very traditional way, which is you meet someone, you figure out how to add value to each other, and then something happens soon after. But I think that's the wrong way to go about it, right? When you meet someone, I don't think you should be thinking about how you can exchange value with each other, right? I do think there needs to be intentionality so that you're not wasting the other person's time, because that's obviously the most valuable asset that we all have. But how I personally approach relationship capital and building relationship capital is, it's sort of into like 5 different, sort of steps in my mind. One being, to give without expecting anything back, right? No need to keep score or start tallying up who's doing what. You just want to start by building trust, because that's one of the pillars of relationship capital that allows the relationship overall to grow, right? The second being, you want to stay curious about people. I think some of us, we meet a person, we figure out what type of value we can add to each other, and then we think about, all right, something's going to happen, and you lose sight of, well, man, when's Roman's birthday? Oh, I'm gonna send. I didn't ask JC. I'm going to send him something, right? Like, or when is his anniversary with his wife? Oh, it's this day. I'm gonna make sure I send him a note, right? It's the small touches that make people feel like the other person values them beyond the benefit of what they're actually looking to gain from the relationship, right? So that's how you keep your, like, for me, I have a curiosity for people in general. I pay attention to everything. One of my first managers in corporate told me that everything is information, right? Everything is information. And so I pay attention, very well, and I utilize what I've paid attention to as my superpower, because I know that that's going to be a touch point at some point in this relationship. The third being, like, add value quietly, right? So in what I just said, right, me just sending a note or sending something to your son, for example, like, that's value. It's like, oh, someone else beyond his family, right, his immediate family, his mother, his father, his grandparents, his brothers, someone else cares about him. And that feels good as a parent to know that, because you do know it takes a village to help your children navigate this world. It's not just all about what connections you can give to them. It's like, if I can introduce my kids to the people that care about me, and also show that in a way that, I don't need to go to the internet and tell everyone what I just did, but I can quietly do that by making introductions, sharing information, supporting him, even when I'm not getting a praise or accolade for doing it, right? So again, that's another small token. Then I'm also big on like protecting my reputation in the process, right? So my name, I always think of this, right? How do I want my voice to be heard in other rooms, right? My name should always arrive before I do. So when someone thinks of Nisiar and they're making an introduction to another person in their network, or they're talking about me in a room that I'm not in, it should be represented well based upon some of what I just named, right? How do you add those small touches, right? And those things help too, JC. Like, when I hit it off with the attorney, I was fundamentally interested in her. We didn't talk business. We didn't talk shop. We didn't do any of that. I was just interested in her as a person, because I do think for me, having that curiosity about people and how they move and what makes them tick is also educational for me. I said in the beginning of this conversation, I'm a lifelong learner, and so everything that I interact with is information, and that helps shape my mindset, my view on life, and how I want to foster the future of myself and my family, right? So, and then understanding that like all of this is, as a financial advisor, we talk about this a lot. You want to play the long game, right? I'm not looking for instant. I'm not looking for instant oatmeal with how I go about these relationships. It's you're going to have some relationships, yes, where it pays off like right now, immediately, but then you're going to have, in most cases, some of them are not going to pay off for 10 years from now. But guess what? That's brilliant for me, because it might come at a time when I need it most, where I can say, oh shoot, like I need to call so-and-so to be able to navigate this part of my life, or I need that one recommendation from this person who knows this, you know what I mean? So like, I think playing the long game and building relationships is key. You can't, especially for my advisors, right? You can't tell me that you're preaching to your clients about investing long-term and playing the long game, like all of these adjectives to describe kicking the can, 20, 30 years out, when you don't do that in your own relationships, right? I think it's almost like it's almost counterintuitive in a way. Like, I think you should be focused on that in your business, but then also like as a person and in the relationships that you have. So, if it's one thing that I learned, is that like your next opportunity won't just come from what you know. It'll always come from who trusts you and who makes you feel connected who feels connected to your mission. So people want to support me because I never ask for anything from people, ever. I always go into it like genuinely wanting to learn from them, to figure out like, how does this person fit into my life, and how and when can I show up for them without ever expecting anything back. So these have just been some like really key points that have helped me grow like as a human being first, and then secondly as an advisor. And it's like that relationship capital piece is big, and cultivating it in a way that allows me to think of it in the context in which I just explained is also attributes to the success I've had and will have in the future. And that's just how you build a legacy, man, that lasts, right? That precedes you. Like how do people show up at your funeral in the future about like how Maya Angelou says it, profoundly in the quote.
I got to pause for a second. I literally was just thinking about Maya Angelou, and it's not what you do for people, but how you make them feel. That's what you're going to say, right?
Exactly.
We were on the same
aligned.
wavelength.
I was going there because like that quote is why I'm really good at relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
and that quote one more time is, since I went through it quickly, what's that quote again?
People may forget what you did, people may forget what you said, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. Mm-hmm. Right? Never. Mm-hmm. And so again, I just gave out a lot of games. So if you're listening, like write that down, right? Write what I just said down, because that's going to help you be really good at cultivating relationships. I'll kind of recipher, I'll bring this back up for you, because I know you guys were listening and you were caught up in what I was saying. Give without expecting anything back, right? Stay curious about people. Add value quietly. Protect your reputation, and play the long game. That's it, right? If you follow those 5 things, and I had to write, and I told you, JC, before this, I had to write my thoughts around this conversation down. And those were the things that came to me when I thought about how I've been so successful about building relationships and navigating, the cultivation part of it. Because all of us can go out and network. We can all go into a room and meet a bunch of, random people that we don't know. But I think cultivating those relationships are where you're going to see the most success, whether it's in the immediate term, today, or in the distant future. So I Yeah, that's it. Like that's like the shape of like, damn, like, and I see that, I see that even pour out into, how it's funny how, and you have to be persistent about this, right? You have to really enjoy this. If you don't enjoy this piece, if you don't enjoy this next piece, you won't be really good at building relationships. I love small talk. And we've talked about this a lot, JC. I love small talk because small talk allows the conversation to be as authentic as it possibly can. Sometimes, contrary to what most people think, you want to get straight to the point of like, okay, why are we having this conversation? What's up? What can I do to help you? And for me, that feels forced. It doesn't feel like, that I genuinely want to be connected with this individual in a meaningful way. We're going right to, like, people go right to, how do I add value? How do I add value? Because society has taught us, if you're not adding value to somebody's life, you're wasting your time. And to what you just said a little while ago, JC, you never leave a call feeling like you were used for your time. You felt like you gained something from that experience, that interaction, something they said, something, again, it's what my first manager told me, everything's information. So when you are having these conversations, you're gaining information that you can keep, and then stuff that you can get rid of, but there's always something you're taking. So if we're going straight to the value of like, if we're going right to the how can you add value piece, you're missing out on the important pieces of this interaction, but the relationship that will allow you to benefit from this. And I'll give an example. The attorney that has become an avid fan of mine, right? In the world of business, you want to create fans, not customers, because fans will be brand loyalists, and people that will be your walking billboard. And so I was in an airport on my way down to Miami to see a client. And again, I'm a small talker, I'm a yapper, and so I'm talking like this guy, he sees I have on a Courtside Wealth Partners sweatshirt in the airport. He goes, "Oh, you're a wealth advisor." And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Oh, what type of clients do you serve?" And I was like, "Oh, I work with athletes." He was like, "Oh, that's great." So he tells me the firm he works for, and immediately I'm like, "Oh, I know that firm. Like, it's from my area. It's it's an esteemed firm that has been doing trust servicing and wealth managing for well over 200 years." And him and I connect, we exchange business cards, we say we're going to follow with each other. I'm intentional about that stuff. I don't just collect business cards for the sake of it. I actually followed up with him and never asked the guy for nothing, right? Never asked him for anything. I stayed curious about him. We ended up going to a Sixers game. He brought his mother, right? Just again, whether that was it was his mother's birthday, right? So that was like a very small touch. I was like, "Hey, I got tickets. Come with me to the game." He's like, "Oh, my mom would love that, blah, blah, blah." I'm like, "Oh, perfect, right? Just come on." Again, I'm not adding anything about my mind about any of this, right? I'm just doing this action because this is who I am. And so his mother says at the game, she's like, "Man, like, what do we owe you for these tickets? Like, no one is just like giving us tickets to a game." And I'm like, "Nothing, right? You guys owe me nothing. Pay it forward. Like, take someone else to the game. Like, I don't want anything from you." And so a few months go by. Him and I haven't talked. Probably we hadn't talked at that point. We hadn't talked for about 2-3 months. We get a random email. "Oh, I want to introduce you to this attorney in New York. She's phenomenal." I'm like, "Okay." I'm always down to meet people. Always. I get on the call with this woman, and immediately after I tell her my story and what I'm involved in, she's like, "Oh, I want to be friends with you. Like, I want to do business together. Like, I want you to meet my husband." I'm like, "Whoa!" Like, on the first call, like I wowed you that much. It's like, okay, great. Like, let's do it. I go to New York before an event, and I meet with her, and we just continue to just talk and get a really good feel for each other. Again, not talking business, not talking shop. And she's like, she told me at the end of that meeting, I'm going to do whatever I can to support you and your business. And I'm going to send every opportunity I can your way. And I'm like blown away, like that someone wants to just be that genuine to like help me succeed. And we haven't known each other for a very long time. And, you know, I think back to what you said about, you know, God placed Tyrone in my life or in my view to get to you. I think of the same thing. Now I can relate that to that point of he put this gentleman in front of me at the airport, because signs are everywhere. That's the next thing too, part of this relationship piece. People got to stop missing the signs. It's there. Sometimes it's like it can be so close and you can just still be overlooking it, and then you're going to later come back and be in the car or in the shower or in the house, wherever you are, and say, Dad, God, you know, God, just give me some signs. Give me some signs. And it's like, dude, I've been giving you signs every time you leave the house. You just don't pay attention to them. Open your eyes. And so for me, people, you know, I get people that, you know, crack jokes and make fun of the fact that, like, I'll go talk to any and everyone, right? Almost like a politician. And the reason I do that is because I have a curiosity for people, as I stated, where I want to know about them, because I'm just that lifelong, you know, learner in life. But bringing it back to that story, the fact that I was curious about this guy led me to get connected to a person who's been very valuable to my business, and I never asked her for anything, right? Going back to some of my principles of what I talked about, and which is, you know, how to approach this whole relationship building and cultivation piece. So yeah, that was a long-winded sort of statement there, but this is how entrenched I am in this relationship building piece, because I know the value that it can play for me, my family, my friends, the people in my ecosystem from a long. I'm always thinking long term with that. Like, that's going to benefit me 10 years down the road, and I'm okay with planting a bunch of different seeds everywhere, because eventually all of these trees and bushes are going to all harvest at different points. But eventually I'm gonna look back and I'm gonna see that I've created a forest, and I'm gonna be like, wow. Like, someone's gonna ask me, well, how did you do this, Nisiar? And I'm gonna direct them to this podcast. I'm not gonna have the time to talk to them about it. I'm just gonna say, hey, you should listen to this, because this is everything that you're wanting to know is going to be on this episode.
I think one of the things that you alluded to towards the beginning was when you met the attorney, you were genuinely interested in her. And I think that when you are genuinely taking an interest in somebody and you're fully present with them, there is an energetic exchange. Like, you know, when you meet somebody for the first time and something feels off and you don't trust them right away.
Yeah.
Like you feel that. It's just the same way where when you meet somebody for the first time and they immediately impress you, like that goes across. To the point of bringing that up is, if you're in the process of trying to meet people and grow your network and make these connections, like, be genuine, because the person on the other side receives that, whether you understand it or not. You can't visually see it, but you've experienced it enough to know when you have good feelings about somebody, when you have bad feelings about it, and you don't really know why. It's an energetic exchange, and
for sure,
being genuine and also being authentic, like being your true self, not trying to be something that you're not, trying to impress them. Like, those things come across in ways that you can't measure and you can't necessarily see, but they're felt. And if you're across the table from somebody who is genuinely taking an interest in you and you feel that they're being true to themselves and you can just feel that, you're much more likely to want to spend time and want to advocate and want to like them. So, and I also just think, you know, not being afraid to reach out. But I do think that, going back to the authenticity aspect of it, I don't like small talk. I don't mind like if it's a friend, I'll small talk, and that's good. But I don't like as extroverted as you might think I am because of all the content I create. And like, when it comes to big settings, I'm more interested. Like, I'm going to a Friendsgiving Saturday, first time ever as an adult going to a Friendsgiving, and I only know the person hosting it. So like, part of me doesn't want to go because it means I'm going to have small talk. And it's not, for me, the small talk is I don't enjoy having small talk with people that I don't have a connection with. And I probably have missed the opportunity to form connections and relationships with people just because if I don't feel like I have something energetically with you, then I'm not really excited about having small talk. And I'm not saying that's good, but that's how I am. The point of bringing that up is I think we can grow as communicators and we can grow as networkers and get better at it. But if I'm not a small talker, me trying to go small talk with everybody at this party this Saturday probably isn't going to work very well because I'm not going to be comfortable. And so it's not going to come across as genuine and it's not going to be meaningful small talk. It's probably not going to lead to anything. Now, what I don't know the line is, how do I get better at small talking if I don't go do it? Like I'm kind of talking out both sides of my mouth, but I think it's important to know who you are and know how you operate. Try to operate within that framework as much as possible, but then also realize there is opportunity for growth, even with this idea of networking to, okay, maybe I should go into Saturday and give myself the permission to release this discomfort around small talk and just let small talk happen. I don't have to be the one to go start it necessarily, but if somebody comes up, make sure that I don't put my wall up immediately and just kind of like short answers and keep the small talk short. So I think it's knowing who you are and being true to that is really important in all of this as well.
I'll share a story. I'll just say this real quick. I also recognize that when I operate in that space of relationship capital, I'm also operating in my genius. I think that's why I pop my shit about, like, there is not another person in America, I don't care who you point to, that does it better than me when it comes to cultivating relationships. And I'm just going to stand on that. But the second part of my piece is why I interrupted you was, I think when people meet someone, they instantly figure out, I got to go back to this, what value can we add to each other? And if there isn't any value that we're adding to each other, then I'm going to waste this person's time. But I think the power in there being no value at certain points is the most valuable part. Because now we can literally focus on building a relationship. Because I know that there's nothing that Justin's going to be able to do for me, and Justin may feel the same, and we might not exchange that energy that you just spoke of. However, on the other side of that, if you're planting a seed for a relationship that may not bear any fruit today, that's okay, because you're playing a long game in your relationship. And it may not be something directly that helps and benefits you. It may be something that helps benefit the people around you, not even just your family, but friends and people in your ecosystem. So I just, I'm going to follow up with you on that. I'm just going to love to know how your small talk went. But
as far as the value exchange, I think the value exchange thought and mindset, I think it depends on like the interaction. So for me, like I'm not, like when I think about Saturday, I'm not thinking about exchanging value. It's just more of like, I don't enjoy talking about stuff that's surface level. And not that every conversation needs to go in depth about the purpose of life, but like, I don't really care to talk about the Colts. I don't really care to talk about the Pacers. like that stuff doesn't excite me. That doesn't light me up. Having a deeper conversation does, but I'm not going to have those conversations with everybody. But I do think that the value, I'm more likely to think about the value is when I'm going and I'm looking up. Okay, how do I bring value? So the example I want to give of kind of how I stumbled my way into figuring out how to build a really strong network was when I first started my firm, first started doing content, there was this circle of people that I looked up to. Josh Brown, Ben Carlson, Michael Batnick, Morgan Housel, like my favorite writers that I read every single day. From what I gathered, I really liked them. I thought they were good people. They're doing good business. So like I would have loved to have gotten to know those people. And one of the ways that I got on their radar, I believe to be, is because I was an avid fan of their work. Like I was sharing it with my circle, not to get their attention, but I just thought it was like, my thought was, I want to share good work. This is good work. You should read it. And so every week on my mixtape for All About Your Benjamins, like Morgan Housel was always number one. Josh was always there. Ben was always there. Like all those guys were there. I was sharing their work. I would tweet it out, the mixtape, and then I was tagging people to let them know, hey, I thought you did a good job. I didn't tag with the like trying to get their attention. That was never my intent. It was to like, hey, you did a good job. I wanted you to know that. And so by supporting them because I genuinely like their work, I think it put me on their radar. And eventually, if somebody's sharing your work every week, like who is this person? Like, let me click in to see who they are. And then that kind of put me on the radar. And so long story short, I end up becoming friends with all these guys. I may not have infiltrated that circle, but I got pretty close to it, became friends with them, mentors with them, but it all started with me taking a genuine interest, liking what they were about and supporting them. And that opened up doors. But I remember the first time I met Josh, like, how do I provide value to Josh Brown? Like, I'm this dude with a new firm in Indiana, and he's this bigger name in the profession, building a really good business. And so, like, I knew that he was an avid reader. As I would read books that I thought were good that he would like I would send him a book. Like, I would find little gestures, not all the time and not too much, but just enough for me. And I always write a note like, hey, you being you and putting out what you do and taking the time to kind of mentor me some provides a lot of value for me. And I just want you to know that I appreciate that. And I hope that this just shows you a little bit that let me return a little bit of value to you by sending this book I think you'll like. Little things like that, little gestures like that go a long way. I don't think you need to be like buying your way into relationships necessarily, but just small gestures, whatever they might be.
Absolutely.
Could be handwritten notes, could be sharing their content, could be even an email. Hey, I really enjoyed this post. Because if you're wanting to kind of begin to connect with people who are creating, like a lot of people create a lot of content because they love it and they want to help people, but they never get any feedback. So to have somebody shoot an email back and say, hey, this really resonated with me, like that goes a long way. And I promise you the person's not going to forget that. So just another way of like the idea of the value. Like there's different ways to provide value.
Absolutely.
It doesn't always have to be business wise.
1,000%.
All right. So then as we kind of get towards wrapping this up, I think, how do you think about the future of where it is you're wanting to go and how the folks, well, actually, I want to pull that back. I don't want to go that direction. The direction I want to end this with is understanding, and I want to get your take on this, understanding that who you're with today may not necessarily be who you're with in the future. So you do this great job of building a network, helping, mutually helping each other to grow, but not everybody is going to be in your life forever. And this has been something that's been hard for me, is that we form these awesome relationships. They're people I wanted to get to know. I get to know. And then as time goes on, it's almost like chapters close. And in this next chapter, not everybody goes from one chapter to the next. So how do you think about making sure that the people you are aligning yourself with, the people that you're surrounding yourself with, continuously align with where you're going, as opposed to maybe hold you back from that next level of growth because you feel committed to this relationship? There's a vested time, there's energy, maybe even money invested in the overall relationship, and it's kind of hard to sometimes let that go. But understanding that like who you surrounded yourself to get you here may not be who you need to surround yourself with to get to that next level. So how do you think about that part of the relationship building?
So something I've done for the last 7 years, and I actually have to give a shout out to my fiance Takia, because she actually helped me figure this part out in my life. Because I used to, early in my life and in my career, I used to feel like I was hitting a ceiling within the friendships that I had, because I thought that all of my friendships should be the same. And when I say the same is, we can go and, we can go to Arizona and we can hike, we could be woo, we can eat acai bowls and do those things. But then I have a friend group that is like, that they are not interested in that, right? And so for a long time, I struggled with that because I knew my life needed the Arizona trip. It needed the woo, it needed the breath work, it needed those dimensions of my life. And I wasn't allowing myself to fully lean into that because I was holding on to these relationships. And so every year since that time period, I have done an audit of my friendships. at the end of the year, I've done this practice every single year for the last 7 years. The last 2 weeks, I'm thinking critically through what relationships have I grown with or outgrown, what relationships have I outgrown, what relationships have I grown in, and how do I create more time and more mental space to lean into the relationships that I've grown in? Because if I focus so much on why I've outgrown with these individuals, I'm losing out on the fact that I've leaned into, or I had this group of people that have really, really allowed me to become my authentic self at its highest level. If I find the time to lean into that, the natural progression of non-communication or just me not really being who I once was to those people are going to run its course. And that's okay, because sometimes I don't think every relationship needs to have the bow put on top to say, okay, that chapter is closed. Sometimes it just does what it naturally will do, which is just veer right and never turn back around. So that allows me to just lean into these relationships, and I focus strictly on, okay, these are the people I want to lean more into this year. These are the people that I want to give more of my time to. How do I do that? And that typically allows me to figure out real quickly who's going over here to the right, who's going over here to the left. And, I'll start trying to plan more intentional time with that person, which is whether it's like, if they're local, or grab coffee or dinner or lunch, once a quarter. Or if it's people that are out of state like yourself, figuring out, okay, what time periods throughout this year are we going to see each other? Are we doing a trip together? Like whatever that looks like, to really, again, go back to what I just mentioned. Like I want to lean more into these relationships. So that has really helped me over the last 7 years. And it also has created an intentionality around how I'm giving my time. Because again, it's the most precious asset. And that's what I would say to that.
Well, I think it's just important to know that sometimes we come into people's lives and people come into our lives, and it's only meant to be for certain periods, and that's okay.
Yeah, season. Yeah.
And understanding that I served a purpose in their life, they served a purpose in mine. We helped each other grow to where we needed to grow, and then that's the extent of how we can help each other. And usually I've noticed those relationships, I'll say they naturally just drift. Sometimes somebody tries to hang on a little bit longer, but eventually you just realize that, okay, they're not responding like they once were. Like I don't appear to be a priority like I once was. And you can fight that. But like, if you think about when you're dating and like you think you're losing your girlfriend and you try to you end up pushing them further away. So I think sometimes you just have to accept that the relationship has run its course, appreciate what it was while it was, and then realize that there's no love lost. And chances are, if you come across that person, you're dapping up, you're hugging, it's all love in that moment. And you kind of go back in time a little bit for that little bit of time you have together. And then you go back to where you both are in the future. And that's okay. And I've struggled with that, but I've gotten a lot better with it. I think one thing that's important to keep in mind is there's this thing called Dunbar's number, which is 150. And the belief is that we can only manage 150 relationships at a time. And so if you think about 150, especially for people like us that we have businesses with clients, like in theory, you've got your family, you've got your close friends, you may have clients, that we can only really handle 150 relationships. So I don't know if I'll ever go through inventory and rate people and kick them out like you do. I'm not that mean, but just understand that okay, if you're noticing that somebody in your life is no longer serving where you're going, and that could be tough. Family, could be a friend. There's this thing in investing called sunk cost fallacy. And that's where you keep pouring good money after bad. Well, I paid all this money into this degree, even though I know I'm never going to use it. I'm going to finish out the next 2 years because I already put so much money in. No, cut the cost. Like you paid what you paid, that's gone. But if it's not aligned anymore, don't put in more money into it. It's the same thing with relationships. Sometimes you put a lot of your time in and your emotions and your energy, and sometimes money. And it's like, hey, I put all of this into this relationship. I can't just let it go. If it's no longer there, the thing is, if you can only have 150 relationships, and most of us probably are at capacity and technically probably above it, when you think about everybody if you're at capacity, you have to let that person go, because now that frees up space for somebody who's more aligned. And I'll tell you, like, I had a big, this summer is when I had a big acceptance of this, a big understanding and letting go, finally letting go of relationships. Again, not that there's any beef, not that I'm not cool, but just realizing that, like, it's never going to go back to where it was. And truthfully, it shouldn't, because we're at different phases now. Mm-hmm. On the other side of that, in just the last 2 weeks, an crazy amount of people who are super aligned with where I am today have come into my life. And I don't know where those relationships go, but when I hang up on the Zoom, I'm like, yep, like, this person is filling the void that somebody else left because I allowed that relationship to finally go. Yeah. So you can't get the people who are going to help you move to the next level if you're holding on to the people from the past that no longer serve where you're going. And again, that doesn't mean you can never talk to them again. And it doesn't mean you have to hate them. It just means that you are letting go of that relationship that once served you that no longer does, so somebody else can come in and help you in the next phase of your life. So I think that thinking about that 150, and whether it's 150, 145, like, I don't know what the real number is, but just think about the concept of, you can't have an infinite amount of people in your life and friends and be a good friend to all of them. So who are your top 150? And when somebody starts to drift and somebody starts to fade, then that means that it is freeing up a space for somebody who's going to help you to the next phase. And there will be people who ride with you for a long period of time. There will be people who ride with you for a short period of time, and in between. I don't know if it's up to us to judge that, but it's up to us to allow the relationship to take the course it's supposed to, and then be okay with when that comes to that end and allow somebody else to come in. So see, that's what we're thinking about.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that.
All right, man. I think that's all I wanted to talk about networking with you, and I loved your humility throughout it. That's what I love about you.
I appreciate
if you all can't tell, if you all can't tell, we really are like brothers. So, like, the banter is fun. And that's why I love these conversations. Like, not everybody who comes on with these convos with friends is going to have the relationship that you and I, or you and Sam, or I and Sam have. But, like, everybody on here I can joke around with as friends. Like, they're in the 150, which I think makes these conversations fun, because it's not, I can be a little bit more relaxed than if I'm having somebody on that I don't really know and it's a subject matter. We can just have fun. So, like, this would not have been an authentic conversations if I wouldn't have, busted your chops a little bit throughout. So
had to.
All right, man. I appreciate. Where can I direct everybody to follow you? Make sure you drop What's Brewing podcast too as well, because your PR sucks right now.
It does. I'm getting better with that. Nisiar Smith on every platform. That's Nisiar. Nisiar Smith on every platform. CourtsideWealth.com, or you can follow Courtside on Instagram. And yes, we do have the What's Brewing pod. We actually just wrapped up a fire episode that we'll be releasing in 2 weeks. So tune in. You can also subscribe on YouTube or anywhere you listen to podcasts for the What's Brewing show.
Sounds good. All right, man. I appreciate you taking the time, joining me. Looking forward to our next one in 6 months or so, and we'll just wait to see what's going on in life at that time, and we'll chop it up then.
1,000%. Appreciate you, JC.
All right, man.